Hey, welcome to another Enneagram podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yet another Enneagram podcast. But this one's different. Another Enneagram podcast is here to help you be a better leader for your team.
We know leadership is already challenging enough, and it can be downright frustrating when your team communication breaks down.
Another Enneagram podcast is here to tell you stories of leaders just like you who are learning how to lead their teams better with the Enneagram. If you want your team to communicate better, be more productive, and love their jobs, another Enneagram podcast is for you. Okay, welcome back to another Enneagram podcast. As always, your host Ryan with your other host Cody. We are in the middle of our top 10 questions about the Enneagram series. As I say every time, these are shorter episodes, and so they are perfect for sharing with people. Post one of these up on social media or shoot a message to somebody that you think might be interested in some of the stuff that we're talking about. Great kind of bite-sized content for people to get into and check out and see if they find it interesting. So we've been going through these. We are halfway through our list, starting on the bottom half today at number 5. Cody, you ready for this one?
Let's do it.
Okay, number 5. What are your favorite Enneagram books and podcasts? Besides this one, obviously.
We're just another one, you know?
That's we're just another Enneagram podcast.
Just another one. Man, that's a great question. And we could talk about this for hours, I'm sure. But as we were kind of preparing for these, I was trying to think through some of this. And I'll just say this. There's 3 primary resources that I'm referencing almost like on a weekly basis. And I would say Ian Cron's podcast called Typology.
Yeah,
Ian Morgan Cron. Is it Cron or Crom?
Cron with an N.
Cron. Okay.
Yeah.
So that podcast is such a good resource because he's constantly covering all of the types. Because I've listened to different podcasts and they kind of zone in on like certain types, or I've learned that like certain people are friends with like just a certain group of numbers, and it's maybe more difficult for them to find people from like different types.
Yeah.
But I think Ian does a great job of trying to really pull people in, and so that's been cool. And he's just had some of my favorite people on that podcast, which is really cool. Second one for me is Christopher Hewart's. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Sacred Enneagram, and what's really special about that book is the first half of the book is almost like every other Enneagram book. He goes through, what is the Enneagram? What's the history of the Enneagram? What are the 9 types? And then it actually has a break, and there's about 2 pages of like just blank pages. And he says, okay, now if you're ready to actually utilize this and embody this, like now we're going to continue to move forward. And I just thought that was really cool as an author to basically say like, this is where a lot of people stop. Because it's true. A lot of people kind of stop. They'll gain the head knowledge. They'll kind of start using it as a party trick, and then they're done. And so he kind of referenced that and really like drew attention to that, which I thought was cool. And then third is the Enneagram Institute website. They have a ton of just really, I think, practical like resources on there. One of the things that they have that I think is really cool, and other people have this, I just reference theirs the most, is that they actually have, for each type, they have how that type will work in relation to other types. So if you click on one, like, so say for like Ryan, if you were going to get on there, man, and you're looking at, hey, like type 1, and then it would say like how a type 1 will do the things they'll struggle with, the things that will potentially cause friction in a relationship with 1 through 9. And that's been one like really special for me, being in a leadership role and trying to understand like how I can best serve, challenge, and work with people of different types. So yeah, those are the top 3 for me, man. Like the stuff that I'm probably on a weekly basis I'm referencing. So what about you?
Dude, I love those. I did notice you didn't mention my book in any of those top 3.
That's number 4. Sorry. So sorry.
Number 4, a close 4 behind Enneagram Institute.
Oh man. For those of you who don't know though, Ryan actually put out this incredible But you said you actually I am going to plug it. I think it's great. So you said that it was a collection of letters you actually wrote to like friends, right?
Yeah, so every one of the letters or chapters in book form is something that I wrote with a specific person in mind. I didn't necessarily
Okay.
send
Okay.
it to that person, but I had a person in mind as I wrote
So cool.
the letter. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And then you put those together as a book, and
Yep.
people can actually purchase that on Amazon and different things like that. And what's
Yep.
it called?
It's called Dear Enneagram. So there's a picture of a typewriter on the front of it. It's a little book. It's not going to cost much, but I really like how it turned out.
Yeah, man, it was really special.
I'm glad to hear it's at number 4 on your list. That makes me
Oh
feel
man,
decent.
hey, only up from here, man. You know.
Gosh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just
ouch.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well then, all right. On to my list. I don't have any books by Cody on my list. All right.
Hey, and if I write one, hopefully it'll reach 4. That's all I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
So yeah, I love the recommendations you made. Sacred Enneagram is one of my very favorites. Like, especially once somebody's already got an introduction to the Enneagram, that's
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
okay, now you want to take a deep dive. I recommend that one. Then I'm gonna jump on the Suzanne Stabile train for a second. You know, she co-authored the book with Ian Cron, The Road Back to You, which is always the one, like, whenever somebody's first wanting to get into it, I recommend that one. I think it's just the best, like, introduction to the Enneagram in a book. But then her second one in that series, she did one by herself after that called the Path Between Us, which is just phenomenal. And it's similar to what you're talking about with Enneagram Institute's website. Is it talks about, you know, this number and what are relationships like between those, and it goes through, you know, every different type, and it's so good and it's so practical. So I love that one. And then I'm big on podcasts. My, you know, typology, like you were saying with the Incron, is just phenomenal. Was listening to that earlier today. Again, Stabile with her Enneagram journey. It's definitely different than Ian Cron. Cron is a little bit more to the point and stuff like that, whereas Stabile's more, you know, having just a kind of a free flowing conversation, it feels like, around some of those. And hers, I think, is more geared towards personal, whereas Ian Cron is more, maybe a little bit more business oriented, not completely, but I think you'll know what I mean if you listen to both of those. And then I actually really, really like, I might get some flack for this one, but I really like the one, oh shoot, it's a more fun one. What's it called? It's
Enneagram and Coffee.
Oh no chill Enneagram.
No chill. Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's ridiculous. You know, there'd be a lot of very serious Enneagram people who wouldn't want to waste their time on it. So if that's you, don't look that one up because it's just a party the whole time, and it's a little ridiculous. And they kind of intentionally try to break a lot of the rules with Enneagram that you're not supposed to break. And so it's just fun. It's a good thing to have, I feel like, to not take everything so seriously all the time.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, I love that one. Those are definitely some of my favorites. I'm trying to think. You know, there's a really good book that I just, I'm not quite even finished with it right now, but I've really enjoyed it. It's just called Enneagram in Business. And so I like that one a lot. It seems like an older book, and it's kind of hard to get. So if you can find it, it's a good little read. And then I think the last one that I would say, and then this kind of goes back to our previous question about the Enneagram being a religious thing, is a book called, I think it's just called Enneagram, A Christian Perspective. But it's by Richard Rohr. And it's a big book. It's not one that you know, are just diving into lightly. It's not light reading. But if you really want to get down into the weeds on some stuff, and especially if you come from a like Christian faith tradition, or even if you don't, but if you do, that's a great read if you're really wanting to dive down deep into Enneagram and what it means for that to integrate with faith. So
awesome.
I think those are most of my top ones. I'm sure there's some out there that I've forgotten or that I've left out. I know there's a lot of other podcasts and other good podcasts, but of course, you can't name them all. So any other thoughts on that?
No, man. As you were talking, we referenced Christopher Hewitts and Richard Orr a few times. I know that they've actually got a documentary. Like Christopher Hewitts has an Enneagram documentary that's going to air pretty soon, and so I'm excited about checking that out. And then I've heard a few people reference this one. I haven't dove into it myself, but the wisdom of the Enneagram. I don't remember who authored that one.
I think that's Beatrice Chestnut.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. That's which also a really popular one.
Yeah, and so it seems like more of like a textbook. And which when you title a book "The Wisdom of the Enneagram," I'm like, it just sounds like a deep read. So
you're just setting the bar high at the beginning, huh?
Yeah, so excited to check that one out. So yeah, man, it's all I got on that.
Awesome. Well, we'll be back with number 4 next. Hey, thanks for joining us today on another Enneagram podcast.
As fellow leaders, we know it can be frustrating when it seems like you always run into the same problems on your team with the same people. But leaders just like you are learning how to lead their teams better using the Enneagram, and you can too.
So if you like what you heard today, we would love it if you would share this podcast on social media and leave a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts, preferably only good, reviews and ratings. That would be great.
If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram or at Another Enneagram, or head over to our website, anotherenneagram.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Another Enneagram Podcast.